Hello and welcome to tonight's CLNS Media Patriots Roundtable. I'm your host, Nick Quaglia, sitting here with my co-host, Mike Molyneaux. No Marv is on tonight. I'm assuming he's going to be back next week, but just me and Mike tonight on the roundtable. And first topic of tonight is Damien Harris, who has become a super intriguing topic to talk about with the Obviously, sophomore season this year, he gets drafted last year from Alabama, and he's buried on the depth chart. I do remember this, though. When he was drafted, Mike, people were jacked up about Dave.
So much about him at the time. But now, Sony Michel, we know about his injuries. Constantly injured, on and off the PUP list. He just came off the PUP list, actually, today. So, talking about that, apparently Damien Harris has really stepped up big time from all the reports, and he's having what's been called a breakout star training camp type performance so far. So, the question is, with Sony Michel's injuries, with his, let's be honest, a lack of high talent first round performance, he's had some sparks here and there, but nothing phenomenal consistently. Can Damien Harris take this number one running back job from Sony Michel as we enter the 2020 season? Mike, what do you think?
So here's the thing. Sony Michel is still a fairly young guy. He's only, 26 years old, I believe?
It's year 3 for him.
Year 3, only 26 years old. So, in sports worlds, he's a young guy with still a lot left in the tank. But we're talking about a guy here who's had some kind of injury issue ever since he became a New England Patriot, and he was dealing with injuries beforehand. Patriots, taking note of that, make sure that they draft Damien Harris in the 3rd round of the 2019 draft. And you already know me. If you've been following the roundtable for a long time, if Patriots take the guy out of Alabama who was under Nick Saban, I'm all for it. I'm all for it 100%. So, coming into the 2020 season as things are getting ready to go, here we go again. Sony Michel is dealing with some kind of injury. Not sure if he'll be ready. His status is up in the air. But now you have a guy who is seeing this as an opportunity for him to show up and show out. And so far, from all the reports we're getting from Patriots training camp, Damien Harris is doing just that. And I firmly believe that he could definitely take, running back 1 snaps away from Sony Michel. Now, when you think of the New England Patriots, obviously their starting running back is not going to be getting snaps and touches similar to an Ezekiel Elliott or Saquon Barkley. So we're not saying this as though Damien Harris.
I don't think Sony Michel's body could handle that.
I don't think he can either. And obviously we don't think that whether it's Michel or Damien Harris, they're going to be putting up big numbers like these other elite running backs because, the Patriots, they like to incorporate other guys. James White, who might as well be the top running back in New England. Rex Burkhead is still around. They just went out and signed, why am I drawing a blank on his name, from Houston?
Lamar Miller?
Lamar Miller, yes, thank you. They just went out and signed Lamar Miller. So the Patriots obviously are going to work guys in. But in terms of Damien Harris finally getting a chance and a crack at getting some snaps and getting some carries, this is the year. Sony Michel will be there, maybe for insurance or whatnot. But if Damien Harris is the guy that's showing up out of training camp, really seeming like he's ready to go, he's fully healthy, and he's performing out of his mind in training camp, you got to roll with him into the season. You have to. And I think the Patriots might need to really take a look at doing that.
Yeah, and now Greg BEDARD on he was on NBC Sports Boston, and I saw this clip today. He said he was raving about Damien Harris in camp, raving about him. You would have thought this guy was a superstar running back. Said he plays bigger than his size. He's a great pass catcher out of the backfield, which the Patriots offense loves that, and that is key. That is super important because Cam Newton, he started to struggle at the end of his Carolina Panthers career, except his numbers went up. I believe it was 82% pass completion percentage when it was to running backs out of the backfield. So that is a very, very important thing to keep in mind. And he said he doesn't look scared, specifically referenced how sometimes Sony Michel does. He's a clear breakout star of this camp, called him the clear running back 1 heading into the season. And he said, this is a quote, to me, he is an upgrade over Sony Michel. And now, look, if you're the Patriots, Mike, you look at Sony, you look at the production. Sure, 2018, he had a great postseason. Nobody's going to deny that. But you look at Sony Michel, and for the most part, I mean, it's fair to say he's been average, right? If not a little disappointing, a little underwhelming. And yeah, he's only been in the league for 2 years, but a good chunk of those 2 years, too, he's been underwhelming, if not average. Maybe I'm going to go average at best. And then he's always hurt. So at some point, the Patriots are just going to be like, guy, what are you doing? And they can't have too much faith in him, right? Because they drafted Damien Harris last year.
They sure did.
And then they go out and they sign Lamar Miller this year.
Sure did. It goes to show the faith that they have in Sony Michel being able to carry the load for this team. They don't have it. Obviously, he's still there. They're not cutting him, but they said, look, we're going to lighten up your load a little bit and acclimate these other guys too, because we're not going to fully put the running game on your back.
It seems like, if anything, their faith in Sony is depleting as time goes on. Because, again, he's just been average. He's been underwhelming, and he's just hurt constantly. I mean, we record this on Wednesday, August 26th. He just came off the PUP list today. When I saw that name go on the PUP list, I was like, guys, come on, Sony. How often are you going to be injured? And when we did the draft show a couple years ago, me and Marv were both on it for CLNS. The first thing that people talked about with Sony, and remember, Sony got drafted before Nick Chubb, which is very important to keep in mind. The first thing that we heard about Sony Michel was that he had chronic knee issues. And immediately, we were like, come on. Hopefully they don't show up. It's a risk, but hopefully they don't show up when he actually plays in the NFL. Well, they've shown up. He's had injury after injury after injury. And I'll finish it up with this. We've talked about this a bunch on the show, and sometimes I'd use it as a compliment, but when you actually look at it in depth, I don't really know how it can be a strong compliment, if anything. So we've heard that Sony Michel is a product of his offensive line. If his offensive line is playing well, he will also play well. But if they're not playing well, we've seen what he is. And if anything, it's average at best. So do you really want to put a lot of stock in a running back at the top spot who needs the offensive line to be playing elite for him to be productive at a first-round running back type level?
Hey, Sony Michel, if he's not getting some good blocking, you're not getting much out of him, because already know he's not good at catching the ball, so you can't even depend on him in that aspect of the game. So, in my opinion, his days as a New England Patriot are officially numbered. I don't see him on this team going into next season, and that's
especially if Damien Harris can catch the ball out of the backfield, like they're saying, because that again is massive to be in the Patriots offense. Absolutely massive.